We have a screwy interest rate environment, and it causes all sorts of damage. It's like a wrecking ball. And when the interest rates are rising, it swings to like the north side of the street and messes up the buildings there. And then when it falls, it doesn't do any repairs over here. It goes to the other side and begins wrecking on that side. So given what happened in the UK, is everybody kind of roughly familiar with the story of what happened in the UK recently? They had a small crisis that could potentially have really damaged their currency even more than already got damaged. So I figured I'd kind of go through that and say, okay, well, how do you build and wreck a pension fund or a pension system in 22 easy steps? So first, this is from Lord of the Rings, my favorite movie. You have to kind of guess what you think the rate of return is going to be, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. So assuming that's really easy, then you have to figure out, okay, based on that rate of return, this is how much we have to calculate how much to deduct from everybody's paycheck in order to put into the pension fund, such that when people retire and everybody is promised a certain pension check, a fixed pension check, that rate of return on that amount of capital collected over their career is going to be sufficient to pay that check. So this is all, really, really super simple stuff. No challenges here in a screwy interest rate environment, just absolutely 1, 2, 3. I'm being facetious. Steps 4 and 5, watch the interest rate fall. It's been falling for 40 years, notwithstanding a few hiccups along the way, such as this one. As the interest rate falls, so does the return on capital. Oops. It's a problem because you figured what your return on capital was going to be, and then they cut the rate of interest, which cuts your return on capital. So the amount of capital you need, if you want to pay $1,000 a month to each pensioner, or whatever the number might be, it requires a certain amount of capital. That amount of capital has just gone up. So you have a shortfall. So, okay, now the workers that you're planning to support in their retirement are in their 30s or 40s. How you need more capital, what are you going to do? So you can go and beg the pension plan sponsor, which may very often will be a political jurisdiction, and say, please give us some more. And maybe they're going to be inclined to do that. Voters have been known to be very merciful and very friendly to anybody that comes along and says, we need you to raise taxes to support our very worthy cause. But it can be political at times. That elephant can be biting the donkey, and the donkey can be kicking the elephant, and maybe you get more capital, and maybe you don't. But you got a problem because you have to pay the pensions. So first thing you do is you say, let's go out on the risk return curve. Let's take crazier risks so you can get higher interest rates. And then also you say, let's go out on the yield curve. Let's go out to the 30-year end rather than the shorter end, because in a normal world, which today we're not, we're inverted, but in a normal world you get higher returns farther out. Oops, not enough. You still have a capital shortfall. So then you use leverage. You say, okay, well, we can borrow and increase the amount of assets we have. Not enough. Finally, you go for what I call the forbidden fruit. A pension fund should not be investing in equities. In my opinion, it could be controversial to say that, but even that's not enough. So finally, and our characters on the right here symbolize borrow short to lend long. Use really short-term funding, which is typically the cheapest, to buy really long assets. Blam. And that's the position that the UK pension funds, I'm sure this has never happened in any other country, only in the UK, of course. But it all blows up because now you have rising interest rates. So think about it, you're borrowing all this money, short-term money, overnight funding or 1-month bills or whatever, and suddenly the interest rate goes up, which means your cost of funding this portfolio has now gone up dramatically. At the same time, the value of your assets in your portfolio are crashing, and you have to sell assets to deleverage because your cost of funding has gone up. You have a real crisis. And so you go to the central bank and you say, uncle, we need a bailout, we need a QE, we need something. And so what does this have to do with precious metals and all that? My company, we pay interest on gold, in gold, to investors. And we fix this problem. The interest rate in gold is stable. It is not subject to a Jay Powell making it go up and down, and a Bernanke and a Janet Yellen and an Alan Greenspan. It's a stable interest rate, which the world so desperately needs, starting with the pension funds.